G'day everyone. Well, it's service time for the VS. I didn't bother recording the oil change because, well, I've got a video of that already and I'm sure everybody's seen oil changes before. I've got my liquid kick up the arse can with me. Not very good for your health, but oh well, my health's okay. So, been shopping and I got a Ryco. I know they're not the greatest filters on earth, but it's a filter. It's better than what's already there, which is not very clean. You know, A360, so that's the part number you're looking for. At one stage, Ryco filters were the biggest manufacturer. I'm not sure what kind of company they are. I've never actually bothered doing research, but they were the biggest filter manufacturer in Australia. And aftermarket filters, or even brand name aftermarket filters I should say, still use the Ryco part numbers like A360. You know, like the oil filter on this Z154 was somewhere on that, or maybe on the box that it came in, it had that written on it. You know, Z154 equivalent, you know. It's not a Ryco filter, the oil filter I put on it. It's actually, I don't know what brand it is, it's made in Indonesia, but anyway, air filters. How often should you do them? Well, I don't really believe in service intervals for air filters. You know, to be honest, it really, there are more factors that determine when you should do your air filter than a service interval is going to take into account. The service interval is formulated you know, based on the premise that the user of that interval, or operator I should say of the vehicle even, is going to use their discretion, i.e. it might be 15,000 Ks for example, or 20,000 Ks for example, or every 6 months, whichever comes first, more often under extreme conditions. Well, the way you should tell whether you need to do a filter or not is to just simply ignore the interval, unless of course you actually hit the interval, because, you know, if you've done 20,000 Ks, please change your air filter, but there's no reason you can't do it sooner than that. You don't have to wait till the interval. So this is what we got in here. It's a little bit, you know, beaten up because it's been, you know, bashed a few times. This is the clean side. This is the dirty side. So, you know, I mean, it's pretty bad. It's dirty enough. It's not critically dirty. You know, if I hold it up to the sun, you can sort of vaguely see through it in parts, but it's not a very happy looking air filter. You should really be able to blow through it. Like if I hold it like this, okay, and I blow through this side, like I can still feel air going through it. Then again, the air filter does look like it's got little tears in it from me cleaning it a little bit over enthusiastically, so that might be allowing air through, but if it looks like that, bin time. The cleaner you can keep the air going into your engine, the longer your engine's going to last. It's as simple as that. You know, these Ryco filters are they're okay. You know, it's going to seal and do its job. This is an OEM style filter. I don't know what brand it is. It's Sakura. There you go. I don't know. Same brand as the oil filter. I don't know what. You know, but they've just. This is an OEM style. It's got that metal sort of surround that the Holden part comes with. This has just sort of not got that. Nothing wrong with that. It's just different. It's nice and happy and white. And when an air filter's new, you'd be surprised, just even blowing through it, how much extra air comes through that filter. So the deal is, any restriction you place on the intake system of the car is going to restrict the amount of air available to the engine. Well, that's going to mean a reduced performance and an increased fuel consumption. One thing to watch when you're putting these filters in make sure that you don't catch the pleats there on the side of that airbox, okay? Because if you do that, then it'll ruin the filter and the engine will end up with dust in it anyway. Assemble the air filter into the lid of the housing, like so, and very carefully place into the lower box, lower housing, whatever you want to call it. Do up all the clips, make sure there are none missing. If there are clips missing, either replace the airbox, replace the clip. That's probably all I can do, really. If there's anything that compromises the ability of the air filter to seal against the housing, then fix it. I've noticed just looking around here, and this is what servicing is, right? It's not just spitting a filter on it, or replacing coolant. It's actually examining components to determine what kind of condition they're in. Now, this cork gasket on the top of this, on the side I should say, of this airbox, between the barb or stub or whatever you want to call it for the induction tract and that mass airflow meter. Now, you may not be able to see that, but right there, move my hand away, there's a crack. Actually, a couple of cracks looking through the camera screen. So obviously that gasket needs to be changed, because that's obviously not going to be sealing as well as it should be. And any leak, from this point onwards, that's letting dust in your engine. Now, dust being of a hard, gritty nature, because what dust essentially is it's rock. Soil is organic matter, but it's also rocks and volcanic material that have been worn and broken down over the years. So they're extremely hard, and they destroy your engine. Valves, valve guides, pistons, rings, the whole lot. And eventually, bearings and stuff. So you really need to keep that air clean. So what you should be doing is, not just examining the pipe. You should be really removing the pipe and making sure it's in good condition every so often, because you need to look at the pipe all the way around its circumference and all the way along its length. Make sure the hose clamps are done up tight. Don't wring the shit out of them, because just tighten them up firm. They're not going to go anywhere. Make sure everything's tight. If there's a leak between the throttle body, or should I say, actually, between the cylinder head and this point here, it's going to run like crap, because that's an airflow meter that measures how much air is going into the engine. It's also measuring the temperature of the air going into the engine. So if that's leaky, that's not going to run properly, and it's going to use more fuel. Pod filters are a bad idea if you're on gas or LPG or propane, depending on which country, wherever you're from. Propane and pod filters are good, because when they backfire through the induction tract, the pod filter seems to be able to cope with that. A good quality one, not a piece of crap, seems to be able to cope with that a lot better than an airbox. The airbox is just going to blow to pieces. So, either don't run propane or, don't run an airbox. A really good gas system shouldn't blow the crap out of the airbox all the time, but hey, it happens. Now, I've seen people do all different modifications to them, like hole sawing, putting a basin, plug in there with a chain, but none of it works. A decent backfire will still blow it to pieces. So if you do have a car that's on gas or LPG or propane, maybe you should consider having the system decommissioned and just getting rid of it. It destroys the valves in the engine anyway. You're not going to get 400,000 Ks out of a set of valves in a motor with propane running through it, because it's such a dry, harsh fuel. But yeah, when your filter looks like that, throw it in the bin. And while you're at it, just check everything, make sure it seals, there's no leaks. On these things, they've got a silicon gasket between the halves of this plenum chamber. Wouldn't be a bad opportunity to check that. Throttle body clean while you got this pipe off, checking it, making sure it's in good nick, you might as well. these things, they really never need cleaning. Like, you know, if your air filter's in good nick, they don't get dirty. On these things, they're an extremely reliable component. These airflow meters, you know, cleaning it's not going to increase the performance of the unit unless the airflow meter is severely compromised because the air filter's been severely compromised. You know, if someone's run it with a big hole in the air filter, or, you know, no air filter, well, shoot, it's not going to work well, is it, if it's covered in dust? But then again, I suggest that if you're cleaning that because that's all dirty, the inside of the motor is going to be identical, so maybe it's new motor time or new car time. So it's so critical to make sure that everything's in good nick, because the cleanliness of the oil filter and air filter, that really does determine the length of time or mileage you can get out of an engine. That's all.